The rain was a frantic drummer against the attic window of Amelia Thorne's dilapidated Victorian house. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and forgotten secrets. Amelia, a historian by trade and an insomniac by nature, was chasing a dead-end lead on her great-aunt, Elara Vance, a woman who had vanished 50 years ago from this very house. Elara's disappearance was the kind of local legend whispered about in hushed tones, a tragedy that time had failed to dull. Amelia was a woman built of sharp intellect and soft edges, her focus today narrowed to a heavy, iron-bound trunk tucked away in the darkest corner. She wrestled with the rusted latch, her breath misting in the cold air. The trunk finally yielded, with a groan that echoed the house's general despair. Inside, beneath layers of moth-eaten lace and yellowed silk, she found it, a small wooden box, unadorned and locked. Frustration mounted until her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic taped to the underside of the trunk lid. A key, intricately fashioned, almost gothic in its design. It slotted perfectly into the box's lock. The box contained a single object, an Obsidian Locket. It wasn't merely jewelry. It was a piece of solidified darkness. The obsidian stone, polished smooth, absorbed every shard of light, making it seem like a small, portable void. It was heavy, unnaturally cold, and strangely warm to the touch all at once. There was no visible clasp or hinge, yet a faint, almost imperceptible line ran around its edge, suggesting it could be opened. The discovery of the manuscript. Amelia turned the locket over and noticed faint etching on the back, a complex symbol she didn't recognize. Next to the locket, rolled tightly and tied with a piece of brittle twine, was a manuscript. It was a journal, not just of Elara, but of 3 other people, their entries interwoven, spanning decades, all bound by the strange presence of the Obsidian Locket. The script was elegant yet frantic, the ink bleeding in places, as if written in haste or distress. The first entry, dated 1898, belonged to a man named Silas Croft, a renowned but reclusive occultist. The stone demands. It does not speak in voice, but in the slow, agonizing pull on the marrow. I acquired it from the ruins of the Black Chapel, ignoring the pleas of the old caretaker. Foolish. I thought it a mere artifact of power. It is not. It is a conduit. The dreams have started, vivid, precognitive flashes of events that have yet to occur, all connected to the symbol on its reverse. I dare not open it. The lock mechanism is impossible, known only to the makers of the obsidian, the ancient order known as the Epherians. I must hide it. They are coming for it. Amelia shivered, despite the physical effort of reading the cramped script. Occultism? A secret order? This was far beyond a simple disappearance. The second set of entries, dated 1941, belonged to a woman named Lillian Hayes, a cryptographer working secretly for the British government during the war. They gave me the locket after the operation in Tunisia. Said it was a cipher key of extraordinary power, capable of decrypting enemy transmissions before they were even sent. Nonsense. It is pure terror. I see faces in the glass. Not the faces of my superiors, but others. Their eyes are hollow. I used the symbol from the back of the locket to break a crucial German code today, but the price was a night terror so complete I could not tell the difference between the blackout and my own screaming. The Etherians, Their sigil is everywhere in the old intelligence files. They are not chasing the enemy. They are chasing the stone. I must bury this key. The entry stopped abruptly, the last page torn halfway through, leaving only the chilling, incomplete sentence. They knew. The faces in the glass. Elara's final entry and the code. Flipped to her great-aunt Elara's entries, dated 1975, just days before her vanishing. Elara, an amateur astronomer, had been obsessed with cycles and patterns. The locket arrived today, sent anonymously. I recognized the symbol instantly from Mother's Lillian's old papers. It pulses, subtly, but I can feel its rhythm. It is a counterpoint to the Earth's own rotation, a beat from outside our system. I've found the key to opening it, not a physical key, but a temporal one. Croft and Hayes were wrong about the Etherians being the makers. They are the keepers. The maker's secret lies in the alignment of the three great eclipses, past, present, and future. A conjunction that happens only once every 500 years. If I can calculate the coordinates of the temporal trigger, I can look inside. I believe the locket contains the missing 5 minutes of history, the reason for all the world's quiet mistakes. The keepers are near. I must hide the coordinates in plain sight, using the house itself as the final cipher. If you are reading this, Amelia, look for the silent witness. It waits for the triple alignment. Amelia gripped the manuscript, the paper crinkling under her sudden tension. The locket was not just a piece of history. It was a device, and Elara had left a code, a challenge, hidden in the labyrinth of the old house. Clue 1, the silent witness. Clue 2, the triple alignment. The temporal trigger. The search begins, the silent witness. Amelia immediately began searching the attic, her historian's mind running through architectural clues. A silent witness in a Victorian home often refers to something non-living that has observed all events. A mirror, a grandfather clock, or a statue. She found it tucked into a dark alcove, a small plaster bust of a woman with a perpetually surprised expression. The silent witness. It was dusty and unremarkable, except for a single, tiny scratch near its left eye. She wiped away the grime. The scratch revealed not plaster, but a sliver of polished obsidian. She pressed the sliver. A faint click echoed from within the bust. She carefully pried off the top of the bust's head. Inside, nested on a bed of velvet, were 3 small, intricately carved wooden discs. Each one had a tiny hole drilled through its center, and each was etched with different astronomical symbols. Disc 1, a solar eclipse over a specific mountain range, Silas Croft's era. Disc 2, a lunar eclipse over a specific body of water, Lillian Hayes's era. Disc 3, a hybrid solar-lunar eclipse over a modern city, Elara's prediction. These were the coordinates for the triple alignment, but they were useless without a map or a reference point. The interruption. The house's sudden silence was more alarming than the drumming rain. Amelia stood rigid, the 3 discs cold in her palm. The silence had a texture, a feeling of being watched. The basement door, which she had secured with a heavy bolt, suddenly rattled violently. Not a gentle rattle, but a single powerful slam, as if something heavy had struck it from the other side. Amelia snatched the obsidian locket and the manuscript, stuffing them into her jacket pocket. She moved to the attic window and cautiously peered down. 2 figures stood on the street below, cloaked in heavy dark fabric that seemed to absorb the street lamp's light. They weren't moving, just staring at the house, their faces obscured by the shadows of their deep hoods. One of them raised a hand, and Amelia felt a sharp, immediate pressure on her temples, like a physical touch. They were the keepers, the Etherians, and they were telepathically aware of her presence, perhaps even her thoughts. Elara's warning was real. Escape and the first cipher. Amelia silently fled the attic, descending to the ground floor. She knew she couldn't outrun them, not without understanding the code. She needed the temporal trigger. She remembered Elara's final sentence. Look for the silent witness, it waits for the triple alignment. Wait. The silent witness waits for the alignment. Where would a historian or astronomer wait for an alignment? The observatory room on the second floor. She reached the room, a small cupola that Elara had converted into a makeshift observatory, complete with a small, dusty telescope mounted on a tripod. On the wall, Elara had chalked a massive, intricate star chart, a map of the heavens. The chart was covered in tiny, faded numerical annotations. This was the key. Amelia placed the 3 wooden discs onto the chart. The holes in the center of the discs aligned with 3 faint, almost invisible puncture marks on the chart itself. Using a pencil point, she pressed through the holes onto the wall. The 3 puncture marks corresponded to 3 numbers written next to the star constellations. 347 from the 1898 disc, 612 from the 1941 disc, 905 from the 1975 disc. Total, 1864. This must be the temporal trigger, a date, or perhaps a time. But a simple 4-digit number? The floorboards downstairs creaked. The keepers were inside the house. Amelia's eyes darted around the room. She noticed a small, antique pocket watch lying on Elara's desk. It was stopped. The time displayed was 1:42. 1:42. A sudden realization struck her. The pocket watch wasn't stopped. It was set. Set to the time Elara needed for her final experiment. She needed to input this numerical code into the locket to open it. But how? There was no keypad, no mechanism. The activation. Amelia pulled out the Obsidian Locket. It was getting colder, almost painful to hold. She looked at the faint line around its edge, the almost seam. She looked again at the 3 wooden discs, solar, lunar, hybrid. The locket was an astronomical device. She held the locket in her right hand and the pocket watch in her left. 1 hour, 2, 8 hour, 3, 6 minute, 4 minute. This was not a time. It was a sequence of rotations. She took the Obsidian Locket and began to rotate the 2 halves along the seam, following the numerical sequence she had derived from the clock's face and the star chart. Rotate top clockwise, 1 turn. Rotate bottom counterclockwise, 8 turns. Rotate top counterclockwise, 6 turns. Rotate bottom clockwise, 4 turns. The locket did not click open. Instead, it emitted a low, resonant hum. The obsidian surface suddenly flashed a brilliant, blinding white, and then went dark again, now radiating an intense, unbearable heat. Amelia dropped it. It fell onto Elara's star chart, scorching the paper in the exact center of the map. And then, a sound from the hallway, closer this time. A low, guttural chant, the words ancient and alien. The keepers were right outside the door. Amelia glanced at the scorched spot on the map, and the locket. It was open. The 2 halves had separated by a hair's width, but there was nothing inside. No mechanism, no scroll, just an infinite internal darkness, a blackness that seemed to breathe. Suddenly, her mind was flooded, not with images, but with pure data. 1,000,000 years of human history distilled into a single overwhelming thought. The locket does not contain a memory. It contains the power to delete one. She heard the door handle turn. Part 1 ends here, with the keepers entering the room, and Amelia holding the open locket, knowing its terrible power. The door to the observatory room burst open, not kicked in, but pulled open by an unseen, terrible force. The two cloaked figures, the keepers, stood silhouetted against the dim hallway light. Their faces remained hidden, but the absence of features under their hoods was more menacing than any grotesque mask. Amelia clutched the open obsidian locket. It pulsed, radiating the searing heat and the unbearable, data-heavy silence she had just experienced. She realized the locket wasn't just a physical object. It was the focal point of their attention, the only thing that mattered in the room. "It is time to return what was taken, Thorne," a voice hissed. It was flat, ancient, and seemed to come from inside her head rather than from the figures' throats. It was the collective consciousness of the keepers. Amelia backed against the wall, her gaze darting between the two figures and the small, dusty telescope mounted on the tripod. What was taken? A mistake? You want to delete history. History is a sickness, the voice replied, taking a slow, gliding step forward. We are the cure. The locket is the key to the temporal void. It allows for the precise removal of critical errors. Your great-aunt, Elara, sought to use it to expose the truth. We came to ensure she did not. Amelia's mind raced, connecting the fragments from the manuscript. Silas Croft saw the future. Lillian Hayes decrypted secrets before they were sent. Elara found the alignment. The locket didn't just show the missing 5 minutes of history. It could erase them. She glanced down at the open locket. The void inside seemed to pull at her consciousness. The power she sensed was intoxicating, but terrifying. You took Elara, Amelia accused, her voice trembling but holding firm. Elara chose, the keeper asserted. She understood the cost. The locket requires a conduit, a temporal anchor, to operate the deletion. She chose herself to be the anchor, fading out of existence as the locket attempted the cleanse. She failed. The alignment was incomplete. The hidden alignment chamber. Amelia looked past the keepers to the large chalked star chart. The obsidian locket had scorched the precise center where the 3 wooden discs had aligned. The scorched mark was not just a burn, it was a perfect circle. She threw the locket violently at the nearest keeper. They didn't flinch. The locket simply stopped inches from the dark fabric of the cloak, suspended in midair by an invisible force, before floating gently back towards Amelia. Futile, the voice mocked. The locket recognizes its conduit. While they were distracted by the locket's return, Amelia seized the opportunity. She kicked the tripod of the telescope, sending the brass instrument crashing down. The noise was deafening in the silence, and as the tripod struck the floor, it hit a specific floorboard. A small section of the floor, previously hidden by the telescope's wide base, sprang open, revealing a short, winding staircase leading down into complete darkness. The keepers immediately turned their full attention to the hole in the floor. The alignment chamber, the voice sighed, tinged with a predatory impatience. She finished the work. Amelia didn't hesitate. She shoved the locket into her pocket and plunged down the hidden stairs, the smell of damp earth and ozone assaulting her senses. The chamber's inner workings. The staircase ended abruptly in a small, circular, underground chamber. The walls were lined with smooth, dark stone, and the only light came from a single source, a small, intricate machine humming silently in the center of the room. It looked like a miniature orrery, a mechanical model of the solar system, but instead of planets, it held 3 small, spinning obsidian spheres. This was Elara's temporal trigger. On a wooden table nearby lay Elara's final notes, written in a shaky hand. The Keepers believe the locket deletes history. They are mistaken. It simply replaces it with the ideal timeline they desire. The missing 5 minutes is the moment when humanity was given the knowledge of its own cosmic purpose. They want that knowledge gone. The alignment chamber must be activated by the locket at the precise triple alignment time, 1864 on the solar scale, to lock the timeline, not delete it. If they gain control now, they will remove the core of our sentience, making us obedient shadows. I pray Amelia finds this. The key is to reverse the polarity, then pressing all relevance. The Keepers were not preserving history. They were trying to control the future by erasing a crucial moment in the past, and Elara had left the way to fight back. She rushed to the orrery. It was intricately designed, but mechanical. She needed the locket to power it, but she needed to reverse the polarity first. She located a small, brass lever beneath the main mechanism. It was labeled with 2 strange symbols, a glowing sun and a black hole. Sun symbol, forward polarity, deletion and replacement. Black hole symbol, reverse polarity, timeline lock, Elara's goal. Amelia grabbed the lever and threw it violently towards the black hole symbol. It clicked into place, and the humming of the machine deepened into a resonant, powerful drone. The 3 obsidian spheres began to spin faster, glowing faintly with a cold blue light. The final chase and the insertion. Heavy footsteps echoed from the stairs. The Keepers were descending. Amelia pulled the obsidian locket from her pocket. The heat radiating from it was almost unbearable. She held it over the center of the orrery. There was a perfect locket-shaped recess in the mechanism. Just as she was about to insert it, the first Keeper reached the chamber floor. The cloaked figure raised a hand, and the atmosphere in the chamber thickened, becoming suffocatingly heavy. "Stop. Do not corrupt the sequence," the Keeper commanded, the voice a chilling whisper in her mind. Amelia gritted her teeth against the mental pressure. She could barely lift her arm. "You want to steal our free will. I won't let you." "Free will is chaos. We offer order," the second Keeper argued, moving to flank her. Amelia closed her eyes, focusing entirely on the locket's cold core, ignoring the fiery heat of its surface. She remembered Elara's entry. The locket does not contain a memory. It contains the power to delete one. If she could not stop them, she could at least delete their knowledge of the locket's true function. As the first Keeper lunged towards her, Amelia slammed the obsidian locket down into the central recess of the orrery, the temporal shockwave. The moment the locket connected with the reverse polarity mechanism, the chamber erupted in blinding, silent light. It wasn't a flash of energy. It was a temporal shockwave. The air shimmered and warped. The 3 spinning obsidian spheres glowed a furious, dangerous blue. For a terrifying instant, Amelia felt time pull apart. She saw fleeting images. A bustling city street, a library burning, and then the faces of the 2 Keepers, no longer obscured, but revealed as hollow-eyed, ancient human forms, their expressions frozen in shock. The keepers collapsed, their cloaks falling loosely around their bodies. The telepathic presence vanished. Amelia looked down at the orrery. The locket was fully inserted, but it was no longer hot or cold. It was perfectly inert. The machine had stopped humming. The aftermath and the missing 5 minutes. Silence returned to the chamber, a heavy, permanent silence. The house was quiet again. Amelia slowly approached the 2 inert figures. She tentatively nudged one of the cloaks with her foot. There was nothing inside. The keepers hadn't just been defeated. They had been deleted from the current timeline. Their knowledge of the locket and the alignment chamber erased. The reverse polarity had locked the timeline, preserving the missing 5 minutes, the moment when humanity gained the knowledge of its true purpose. The keepers' interference and their own existence relative to the locket was gone. Amelia looked back at Elara's final note. It was still there. I pray Amelia finds this. Then, she returned to the orrery and managed to pry the now cold and harmless locket free. The inscription on the back, the complex symbol, was faded, almost gone. What were the consequences of her action? She had locked the timeline, but what had she saved? She left the chamber, climbing back up the secret stairs and covering the opening with the floorboard and the broken telescope tripod. The final revelation. Days later, Amelia sat in the observatory room, the sun streaming through the dusty window. The house felt lighter, less oppressive. The Obsidian Locket sat on the desk. She knew she had saved something fundamental. But what exactly was the missing 5 minutes? She picked up the manuscript again and reread Silas Croft's first entry. The stone demands. It does not speak in voice, but in the slow, agonizing pull on the marrow. Amelia looked out the window at the familiar street. The people below were rushing, laughing, living their ordinary lives. And yet, something was different. Suddenly, she realized. The missing 5 minutes wasn't a historical event. It was a gap in collective awareness. She reached into her memory, trying to recall her grandmother's face, a favorite childhood song, the name of a character in a book she loved. The memories were there, but they were no longer static. They were flexible. She realized she could edit small, insignificant details of her own past. The color of a favorite childhood toy, the precise route she took to school, and the rest of her memory would seamlessly accommodate the change. The missing 5 minutes was the deletion of the innate human knowledge that our memories are malleable, that the past is constantly being rewritten by the present. The keepers wanted to erase this chaotic awareness and replace it with a fixed, ordered history that they controlled. Elara had locked the timeline, ensuring that humans retained this dangerous but essential truth, that our reality is only as stable as our current perception of it. Amelia looked at the inert Obsidian Locket, now a simple paperweight. She had secured humanity's chaos, its ability to grow and change, even if it meant living in a reality where the past was perpetually fluid. The rain had stopped. The silence outside was no longer menacing. It was simply the sound of the world breathing, ready to be slightly, subtly reimagined by those who lived within it. Amelia Thorne smiled. The secret was safe, and the story of the Obsidian Locket was now, perhaps, just another beautifully flexible memory of peace.